All right, as I stated, we have special guest on the show, Tyler Walker. He's the CEO of Drone Roofing. Tyler, thanks for being on the show, man.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure.
Yeah, well, I'm looking forward to it because you have a very unique approach to roofing and to the emphasis on drones and all of that stuff. So before we get into all that, kind of give me your background in the business, how you got into roofing and what led you up to this point.
Okay. Well, it's an interesting story. I'll start with kind of why I even got into construction to begin with. I went to school. I graduated from small high school, and as a valedictorian, I was able to choose a school of my choice. I decided Texas Tech University, obviously red and black. Those are my colors. That comes up, but they had a great engineering program, and I knew I've always grown up building things and creating things and been a problem solver was just really my natural niche per se. And so graduated, and I had a friend, mutual friend of my wife, that was in the roofing industry that reached out and said, I've got an opportunity for you to come in, and as you're deciding on what you want to do with your future, whether you want to be an entrepreneur or a sales guy or whatever it is you want to do, if you want to come, learn some roofing, you come join me. And I had done construction in the past. I'd worked for companies like High Country Utilities out in Louisiana on a basically uh, what's the word I'm looking for? It was a engineering type. Oh, word slips. But either way, I started out with this company, just doing construction underneath them as an apprentice type. That's the word I'm looking for, kind of as an apprentice, to see if that's something I want to do in the future after I graduated. Work with people like that. We rebuilt an air traffic control tower from the slab up out on Lake Pontchartrain. I did some work for Fluor Daniels. All of this was just while I was going to school. So construction was always just in my desire to be a part of. And so after graduation, before just applying and deciding what I wanted to do, went into work do some roofing sales. My first day knocking doors. So I kind of started the whole industry, was knocking doors. I was very successful and really just kind of grew to love the roofing industry by being involved with that roofing company. Now that business owner right away knew that I had the entrepreneur mindset. I wasn't so sure of that just yet, but we had a mutual agreement that eventually that we would I would probably do my own thing. And I got together with some guys that I grew up with, some guys that I had been currently working with, and we decided to just go for it. Like a lot of other probably roofing company owners, they started with another roofing company and realized that uh, it would benefit them and their families a lot more to be able to brand and start their own business. And so while I was working for the other company, I've always had technology and engineering as a part of my background. So I could kind of see where the future was going with technology. I noticed that it was a lot easier to use a drone to get up on a really steep roof. There were a lot of adjusters out there who were 60, 70 years old still doing this. And man, I felt for those guys. They were still hustling and getting up there and breaking their backs. And I'm like, you know what? I'd like to do this, but I'd like to do it in a smarter way. And so I saw drones where they were going. We came together with the group of guys that I was with and said, look, this is what we're going to brand it with. We're going to use this as a tool in our business to make us more successful. And that tool was really the reason we branded it Drone Roofing and Construction. And a lot of people always ask me, why are you calling it drone roofing? It's because of the applications that drones have to assist us in doing our job more efficiently and effectively. And that's really how this company got started. Back in 2016, we started with just a couple sales guys, and our first year in business, we did just under $1 million in revenue, and we focused solely on residential. We knew we wanted to get into the commercial game. That was definitely part of our future. We just didn't know quite yet how to get there. We use a lot of training platforms like the Storm Ventures Group training platforms, Sky Diamonds University. We utilize those tools to give us knowledge and wisdom how to procure those opportunities. And then I believe it's our second year in business, we did our first commercial job. So that's kind of how we got started. We got started really small. We're still a fairly small company. We've maintained that revenue each year that we've been in business, and it's a lot of fun. I love it. It's great. So that's really where we came from.
Yeah, so it's an interesting, it's a similar story to, like you said, a lot of people out there probably, but I think the big difference in your story is you went into it with an entrepreneur mindset, even though you wouldn't have said that to the company owner, hey, I've got an entrepreneur mindset, I'm going to break off
Right.
on my own one day. But he saw it in you. You guys
Yes.
definitely talked about it, and you broke off on your own, and it's a success story. And before we get into all the wild stuff that you are doing with drones that I know 98% of other people out there are not doing, what's the key takeaway from that first year in business?
Man, I would say that the key takeaway is so I can honestly say it was very difficult. There was a lot of hurdles that we went through. I'm sure we'll get into that later on. But the key takeaway is just keeping your nose to the grind. I mean, it's a tough industry. There's a lot of competition. There's a lot of people out there, and we don't want it to seem like a cutthroat industry. It shouldn't be. But my key takeaway is utilize the resources that other people have used to be successful. Utilize those training programs, those platforms. That's really what built us. We built a really good relationship with some lead generating systems like Next Gen Storm Leads with Kim Reed, and those guys have done so much for this industry. And so the key takeaway is definitely get involved and learn from other people, just like what we're doing here, and with the Roofing Mastery group. We want to learn from each other. We want to utilize those resources that have been provided to us, and that will definitely grow you each and every year. Wisdom is something that I think is priceless, and you can get that from these resources. So
That's a great point. Yeah, I know. I think about guys that are, trying to become pro cyclists one day. It's like, well, if you want to become an Olympic cyclist, you need to start hanging out with other Olympic cyclists. You need
exactly.
to learn what they eat. You need to learn what their regimen's like. You need to learn what their training programs like, what kind of bikes they ride, where they ride the bikes. I mean,
100%.
if you want to, and I agree with you. I think the opportunities out there for all of us to help one another are huge. And we love the SVG Training Academy as well. I mean, they're
Yeah,
just all the different resources that are at our fingertips in a time like this where everything can be done online, or a lot of stuff can be done online, is huge. So,
absolutely.
so you have a background in engineering.
Yes.
You're also entrepreneurial, and I feel like with you, that's created a powerful combo. You've had this recipe here of this skill set that's given birth to drone roofing. And so you created your company. You had your first year, which went well, and it kept getting better and better as the years have gone by. But how did you make that transition into commercial roofing? Tell us how that worked.
Well, mentorship. I I decided that if I was going to be involved, it's a completely different animal. When you're dealing with commercial and that type of business, you need some gray hair. That's what I learned, and I utilized mentorship, who from an individual that had been there, had got into the commercial industry. Outside of my network within the industry, I had a mentor that was always there for us, anything we needed. He helped us actually develop and grow the business and our structure in the beginning. And he went on to work for a large company, Signal Restoration. They went and redid the Caribe Hilton after the hurricane out in Puerto Rico. And, just learning his scars, learning his, hurdles that he went through, and utilizing those to try to not necessarily prevent, but learn how to be rigid whenever those things come up. That's really how I transitioned into the commercial industry. It was kind of a piggyback off of what we learned in our training programs and the mentorship that I received, and we utilized that to go out and capture some really large jobs in my home turf, and then after Hurricane Harvey down in Corpus Christi, we went and did a lot. I've done several of the large downtown low slope roofs down there, some very large standing seam metal roofs, and getting into that industry was a huge transition. It wasn't an easy feat by any means. There's a lot more details, and you always hear the devil's in the details, and it is, especially in commercial. And so if one little thing can set you off course, and it's not that we're never going to make those mistakes, it's just that we're going to be able to learn from those mistakes, because we've got those things to compare to from other people's mistakes, other people's scars, and our own, and it grows us, and it allows us to really hone in on those key things to do a better job on the next one, to make sure that those mistakes are less and less as we go. And that was really the big transition for me and for our business, our company.
Well, I love that because I'm just a huge fan of mentorship too. I've got a mentor that, like you said, has got some gray hairs, very,
Yep.
very successful business owner and wealthy entrepreneur here in Dallas who set up a company that was a passion, a side passion, and grew it and scaled it to be a huge company and sold it. And I bounce ideas off of him once or twice a week, and I know that I wouldn't be able to achieve the goals I have in business. And it's just guys like that. When you bounce an idea off of them, they ask questions that you weren't even thinking about.
Exactly.
Like, oh man, I didn't even consider that. Thank you.
Absolutely.
I was so excited, and you just kind of deflated my balloon a little bit.
Happens
But I'm really
all the time.
glad. But I'm really glad you did, because that
Yeah.
balloon was really weak, and it would have popped.
Exactly, and that's you're 100% correct. Because at the end of the day, another thing I've learned, we can have these big opportunities in front of us, and it can make our eyes get really big. But one really key thing that I always learned was no business is better than bad business, and you got to be able to have those outside perspectives when you have these big goals that you're trying to go after, because you're just gung-ho and you want to go get it done, but you got to have those questions. You got to have that pushback in order to, because just like you said, I've had those questions asked, and I'm like, gosh, I definitely would not have thought of that. And I'm glad that you said that, because now I'm reconsidering even pursuing this, not as to be a Debbie Downer, but just the more critical you are going into a scenario, the better off you're going to be, whether you get the job or not. You're going to learn from each scenario.
Yeah. And I know some guys say, well, where do you get somebody like that? And my whole thing was when I started looking for a business mentor, I thought, well, I know what I want from them. I just want some of their time. I want to ask them a lot of questions, but I don't want to make it this big, intense thing like, will you mentor me? I really just kind of want to talk and see if we can bounce some ideas off of. And then if I want more, I want to say, hey, look, I'd love to talk to you a little more, but maybe there's something I can offer you. I've got a background in online marketing and business development. Like, is there something you'd like to get done that I could do and you don't have to pay somebody for? And then in return, like, let's just grab lunch every 2 weeks. And here's some things I've got going. I just want to share those with you and see what you think. And that's kind of how it started for me. It wasn't this big, huge commitment. Like, will you be my mentor for the next 2 years? And,
Yeah, and that was the same scenario for myself. It started out with just, hey, I look up to this individual. I think that he has a lot of positive things that I could learn from, and I'm just going to reach out. I'm going to reach out and just ask as many questions as I can. And I've learned that from my wife. My wife has so many questions, and I've learned that from her, and she's my business partner now. And that, I think that's super important is don't feel like there's a stupid question out there. Just, if you are genuine in the way you ask and the way you reach out, then it's going to be beneficial for you.
Totally. And so, as part of your journey, you've gone from working for a roofing company to launching your own with an emphasis on drones to then transitioning into commercial roofing. And so, let's talk about that. Because that's a competitive market as well.
Yes.
And so, how do you differentiate yourself in the commercial roofing world?
Transparency is really how I differentiate myself.
Okay. Let's talk about that. What do you mean by that? You tell
So,
everybody all your problems in your marriage?
no, not at all. That's funny. No, transparency is a byproduct of that is trust. And at the end of the day, the the best way to gain business is through relationships, as I've learned. Starting out with mentorship, you have a relationship there, you've gained trust there, you've earned trust there, and so our goal as drone roofing and construction is to create that trust through transparency. And when I say transparency, I mean as we utilize our technology and our drones in order to do that. I procured a large, I say large, one of the first big jobs that I did kind of on my own with this company. Once we restructured it, evaluated everything for a commercial, we captured the business based on that transparency. The fact that we were able to provide full real-time view of a job that we're doing with our technology from a bird's eye view gives a client just completely 100% trust. They know that in that contract that we've put together, that we're doing exactly what we said that we're going to do, and we have nothing to hide. So it kind of makes for a very difficult. You have to be very, very careful and strategic about what you do, as in following all the regulations, OSHA, all the requirements, because you're in a spotlight, and once you're in the spotlight, you have a lot of pressure on you, and so we're allowing people to understand that even though there's that pressure there, we're fully dedicated to doing our job the way that you asked us to, and we're proving that by allowing you to watch us do that job, to utilize technology that is more efficient, more effective in measuring, and also with thermal imaging, we have the ability to, with our technology, to see things that a lot of people can't see, and it's just providing data, facts, and just open. It's a fully open line of communication and visual communication, which allows us to lay it all out there, and we utilize that with our goal to give them 100% commitment in our contractual agreements.
So let's paint a picture here, because I think there's a lot of people that don't have the proper mental image of what you're talking about. So what you're talking about is like, let's say you guys get a big commercial roofing project that's going to take however long, 2 or 3 weeks at least.
Right.
Are you saying you're going to have like, I've got a DSI Phantom or whatever it's called drone, it's like, I don't know, it's like a foot wide or something. Are you saying you're going to put one of those things in the air for 24 hours at a time? I mean, what are we talking about?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we've got this guy over here that we utilize for, just our daily method of operations for documenting. We use Company Cam. It's a great application. It also does real time. You can upload those links, the video, photographs of, we don't have to physically step up on a roof to begin with. We can utilize the technology that we have through that drone to do a contactless inspection. We get up there, we can go get on a very tall roof, a very steep roof, and we're not damaging that roof in the process. We're not causing other issues, giving them concern that maybe we're causing damage in order to earn their business. Because you never know, there's people out there that'll get up there, and I've heard of people using hammers on a roof, to make it look like hail damage. And so right off the bat, they know that we're doing our best to give them that assurance. And so we utilize something like that in the very beginning. And then I say we get a job that lasts 2 to 3 weeks. We've got a patented system that is available actually to other contractors that we can put a drone in the air. It's not just a little guy like that. Normally in that scenario, when you have a week-long process, we've got a larger bird that sometimes can weigh up to 47 pounds in the air. And we have a patented system where we have a constant power source going to that it's sending data back as well. And so we can provide a real-time link with an encrypted code to the people that we choose that are involved with that, whether it's the carrier, the client, the project manager, our office staff, people that are a part of that agreement can physically at any point in time pull up on any device that they want to and see where we are in the process. So it kind of bypasses the whole, weekly updates. We're allowing them to see that, and it's recording it. And so they have access also after at any point that day's process. It's a visual, just a visual way of looking at things and seeing what's been completed without us having to type something up, without us having to put together a big email that talks about what we've done that week. And so it's just using, we say we're tech powered, data driven. So we use the tech to provide data in order to give assurance of what's going in our process.
And so as you guys do that and you deploy this system, this technology system to give transparency, like you discussed, and do these things that you just don't hear a lot about, how's it been going? I mean, is business growing? How are you going from launching this system and getting one commercial project to the next one? I mean, are you doing 2 projects a year, or are you growing, or how's it going?
No, it's going great. We pretty much really launched this. We really launched this at the last SVG event. We actually live streamed a really neat basketball event for SVG. We went out and we did some really cool stuff with Steve Soul on a very historic build that he did in downtown Dallas, the Old Red Museum. And, we kind of slowly implemented that and allowed people to see what we were doing. And then we really launched it on one of our big main jobs that we completed at the end of the year last year. And obviously things have looked a lot different for most folks because of where we are right now with our economy, where we are as a country. But we are still utilizing that daily. We are still, I've even done it on residential jobs as well. We've got this, not just for commercial, we're also using it. I mean, because it's great for residential as well. We've got this drone in a box that we're developing, where you can set it up on a residential job, and just imagine the kind of feedback, the kind of leads that you're going to generate on your own by having a system like that in a neighborhood that's had damage. Everybody and their dog is going to look outside their window and say, what is this drone doing in the air above this house while these people are working? I got to, of course, anybody's going to wonder what's going on. They're going to be curious about it. And you have a really easy opportunity to just meet somebody and explain to them your process and why you're doing that. And it sells itself. And it has proven that already. we've had great success with residential and commercial. We actually captured that job that we finished last year because of that. We presented in front of a commissioner's court to a big group of people, and when they understood that they had the ability to have their eyes on that project, this is not some little easy project. It's a very detailed project. There's a lot of money involved. There's a lot of time involved. There's a lot of details involved. When they understood they could have their eyes on that project and really essentially micromanage it themselves, that was the key decision that awarded us that job. And so during the whole process, it's just been it's been amazing to see how it's benefited other people, how it's benefited us, and we're now even offering it to other people. It's a great way to help other contractors to grow their business as well, and it's been very successful in my opinion thus far.
So I've got two questions on the heels of that. One is, so if I'm the general contractor, can I just use a drone, or do I need to get a pilot's license?
Well, you have to have a 107 pilot's license to be able to utilize that in a commercial way. And
But
so,
if I want to do a roof inspection, am I in danger of getting a ticket if I fly the company's drone?
so the regulations are changing regularly. Initially, it started out as you can fly as recreational as long as you're really not charging somebody to, and as a service to do that. You can get up there and you can inspect anybody's roof if they give you permission to. And now as those things have changed, we just make sure that we are in compliance no matter what. We carry our 107 pilot's license, and so it's obviously if you're looking into doing something like that, flying a drone for your business, I would suggest looking into that and reaching out to the FAA and digging into that. But we don't at this point. As the regulations have changed, we're obviously always updating and doing our due diligence. But I would encourage somebody that's wanting to use a drone for their company or for their business to get their 107 pilot's license.
Yeah, bottom line is make sure you're up to regulation no matter
Absolutely.
what they are at the time,
Yeah,
right? Because the time of the recording of this podcast, they're going to be one thing, and then 2 years from now, they're going to be different.
Exactly. And things could have changed yesterday, and I just haven't, obviously gotten those updates yet. So there's also that.
So you've experienced success in the commercial space. You are doing some things with drones that most people are not doing, which is exciting and which is getting you more business. But what's been the biggest hurdle you've faced, or maybe continue to face? Is there one big one, or is there one that continually comes up that you face when you're trying to get more jobs in the commercial roofing space?
Just as a business owner in general, as a company, or with the technology?
No, I guess with the business owner, as a business owner with your company.
One of the biggest hurdles is obviously, most of us, there's a difference between the retail world and the insurance restoration side of things. And we primarily focus on the restoration side of things. And the reason being is because there's amazing margins there, and there's, it's a great business structure to be able to pursue stuff like that. And essentially it's the hunt to a lot of people that makes it so much fun and just exciting. But the biggest hurdle that I face as a business owner and as a company is competing against people who aren't willing to follow those regulations and those rules, who are willing to undercut you, and who are willing to come in and offer things that they shouldn't be offering. It's an unregulated industry, and so it makes it very difficult, even if you are a licensed contractor, which is not required in the state of Texas as a general contractor or a roofing contractor. But we do maintain those regulations within our business, and we want to make sure that we're always doing the right thing by our customers, by our clients, and that hurdle is, I feel like it's getting a little bit better. There's a lot of there was a recent bill last September that essentially was trying to help semi-regulate the industry. You have the bill states that you're required to pay your deductible. You still have those people out there that are willing to eat that, who are willing to absorb that, and we're just not willing to do that. We'd rather, unfortunately, lose a customer than do something like that. And that's another reason why I'm involved with the American Policyholders Association. Is we want to level the playing field. We want to hold everybody. We want to hold ourselves accountable and everyone else involved in this industry, especially the carriers right now, because the carriers are offering programs while there's a bill that states that you cannot absorb, eat, swallow the deductible. They're offering programs where they have their own elite contractors where they're telling their clients, their customers, who are also our clients and customers, that if you utilize this group, they will eat your deductible. So, I mean, it makes it a very difficult hurdle to overcome. You have to sell yourself and your company and your value, and it can be a hurdle, and it especially if you're in a region where there are a lot of other contractors like Dallas. Dallas has it's one of the biggest cities with most roofing contractors in the United States. So it's a very competitive market, which, we're kind of on the back 40 of Dallas, over here in Granbury where we're located, but we do a lot of business over there too. So I would say that's the biggest hurdle that I face as a business owner.
Yeah, I mean, I'm in Dallas and I've never run into you.
Yeah, a lot of people haven't heard of us.
Probably never will. It's such a big city.
There's so many of us.
But you know what? To that point, I think it's so interesting because we were talking about this. I was riding around with the owner of Raintight today, and we were talking about stuff. And there's some sales guys out there that are scared by the fact that there's some guys out there that will still sell eating the deductible, or you know what? Okay, legally I can't take your deductible off. Well, here's what I'll do. If you'll let me put a yard sign in your yard, we'll call that a marketing fee, and I'll pay you. Oh, what's your deductible? It's $2,800 or whatever. Okay, I'll pay you that for marketing and all this other stuff. And my whole thing is like my sales approach is the challenger method, which I didn't even know it was called that until a couple of years ago. But my philosophy is like, typically the customer's wrong. Like, yeah, if you're doing a service and the customer has a complaint, that's where I get where the customer's always right. That principle kind of comes into play because, hey, if they have a complaint, you need to validate that complaint immediately. But typically, when it comes to any sort of complex product or service, the customer doesn't have a clue what's going on.
It's all about education.
Yeah, it's all about it. So the whole sales process is about education. And when the customer says, well, I thought we could do X, Y, Z. No, you can't. You're wrong. Now, I'm not saying that you're wrong.
It's hard to tell somebody they're wrong.
And so we had a job in Highland Park. The roof is going to be finished today at the time of the recording of this podcast. Very affluent neighborhood in Dallas. They had another guy come bid the job. We came in and bid the job, did a full scope of work per manufacturer's guidelines, identified a lot of problems as well that needed to be modified, modifications to the roof and stuff. Part of the roof was super steep and it created a dead valley. Another part of the roof is flat. It's just a really weird project. And so anyway, we came in with a bid that was almost $10,000 higher.
Of course.
And they said, well, why is your bid so much higher than his bid? And I straight up told the customer, I said, well, here's his list of items. Here's ours. Here's what he left off. And in addition to that, I said, candidly, I don't think he can even do this job for the amount he bid it for. And I don't think he can even break even on the job. And I said, you're an attorney. I told the customer this. And I said, what if your customer came back and said, okay, you've told me it's going to take 40 hours to execute this document. And the customer came back and said, well, I want you to do it in 20. You're going to tell them, no, I'm sorry, I can't do that.
Can't do it.
Well, it applies to my trade as well. And if you want us to cut corners and you want to find the cheapest person in town, have at it. But we're not that. We want to do excellent service. We want to give you exactly what you need to keep a roof over your head. And we want referral business. And we want to give you world-class customer service in the process. And that guy that gave you that $10,000 cheaper bid isn't going to do any of that. And man, the call ended. And honestly, I was like, I don't know if I closed that deal or not.
Right.
Because at the end of it, he was like, okay, thanks. Well, I'm going to talk to my wife and we'll be in touch. And we got off the
Yep.
Zoom call and I was just like, dang, I wonder if I could have done a little better with that. And I wasn't a jerk or anything, but I
Right.
basically just told him, like, here's the reasons why what you're thinking should happen isn't going to work.
Yep.
And man, they texted me the next day and were like, hey, we want to go ahead and get started. And
Yep.
we're going to pay all cash and, you know, da, 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 da. So I was like,
Don't you love
great.
that? Oh, that's excellent. Yeah.
No
And I
waiting
mean,
for the check.
yeah. And there's things like code upgrades too that roofers, you know, that'll come in there. They have no idea what those are. They're not following any of the code compliance, and that costs money. But you know, that's also billable to your insurance company in a restoration scenario. So it's just like you just said. It's just about educating your customer in a way that it's hard thing to do, to tell a customer they're wrong without just saying, hey, you're wrong. You know, it's very difficult. It's a big hurdle. It's a big hurdle too. So
Yeah, in our situation, it was interesting because it was not an insurance job, so
yeah,
they're going to be
which
out
is
of pocket for 100% of it.
even more difficult.
Yeah, and so the only thing we could do to save them money was only a couple of things we could do to save them money, and one of them they had a fancy ridge shingle on top of the ridges of the roof, and they asked if we could change that and different stuff like that. But the education thing is so huge. I mean, I feel like the more
Absolutely.
educational you can be, the less you're trying to close a deal.
Absolutely, and that goes back to like what we talked about at the beginning, is utilizing the resources that are out there, like those training programs. You can get that education up front, and know going into a scenario like that, you're prepared for everything. So
Well, let
it's
me
very
ask you
important.
this, because I know you're growing a successful company. You're doing some things that are really creative. You're partnering, and you know, you're kind of forming strategic alliances with people in the industry that are real movers and shakers. And so you're exercising some leadership to pave a way for all this stuff to happen. So what would you say over the last few years has been the key to your effectiveness as a leader?
Um, Invisible leadership.
Okay, explain that, because I see I'm looking at you right now.
You can see me. So what are we talking about? You know, it goes back to wisdom, and you know, it's better than strength, in my opinion. And it's really the strongest asset to one's character and their leadership, and being able uh, to lead from the front in a way that it's not just a look at me, here I am. Every time I walk into the room, I'm the guy in charge. Those are great people, and we need those people in our industry. But for me, the invisible leadership is leading by example, um, doing doing the right thing, even when it's a hard thing to do as a business owner. Because you're always going to come across things where you have a salesman that worked their butt off, that you know, made a mistake. Do you go ahead and do you still pay them what you're originally supposed to pay them with that mistake? You know, you can be an invisible leader and work with those people and still reward them in a way without letting everybody know it, letting everybody know, like, this is what's right, this is what we need to do, and let's not make those mistakes anymore. You know, even as a business owner, 4 years in the business, I'm still making mistakes every day. If I didn't, you know, none of us are perfect, and if we didn't learn and grow from those mistakes, then that's the problem. There's a problem there. But um, I'm a man of faith, so I think about Solomon in the scripture. You know, he he met this guy that there was this city that was going to be destroyed, and there was a guy that everybody knew in the city. Well, really, actually, I take that back. Not many people knew who he was in the city, and he didn't, you know, he didn't have any wealth. Solomon was a man of very very much wealth, and he saw this individual that was essentially homeless, poor, didn't have anything, but he saved that city from destruction. And so, what Solomon learned from that scenario is it doesn't matter. You don't. Everybody doesn't have to know who you are. Everybody doesn't have to know um, exactly what's going on behind the scenes, as long as is you have the wisdom there and you're searching for that wisdom and you're seeking that inner peace. Like I was talking about, I've been reading a book. It's called matter of fact, it's right in front of me, The Way of the Warrior. It's an ancient proverb to inner peace. And, it is a faith-based book. And I look to things like that and my faith to help me to be that invisible leader. And not always being invisible is going to get you where you want to be, but being able to, at the end of the day, lead by example is more important to me than trying to be all show, just, hey, look at me, like, look at what I've accomplished. None of that matters. What matters is your character. And at the end of the day, if you've achieved great success, it's because of, you can sleep well. It's because of your character, and your success isn't defined by monetary either. It's defined by your growth, and your character. And so that's kind of the way I see it, the invisible leadership that I want to reflect.
That's good. And it sounds like, if I hear what you're saying correctly, it sounds like you're basically leading in a way that you're trying to help others. You're trying to fulfill a vision, but you're not making it about you. You're not seeking recognition, because some people
Right, exactly.
could interpret that the wrong way and make it sound like you're saying like a passive leadership or whatever, but it's not. It's very
Right. No,
active.
exactly. It's very active. And it goes back to that ancient proverb that I was talking about, that nobody, at the end of the day, nobody really knows who that man was, but it didn't matter. He saved that city. He was the reason that city was saved, because of his wisdom. And he didn't need this persona, this crown, this high, you know, he didn't have to be somebody of importance to be able to do that. It's just, like you said, it's leading by example, but not trying to be part of the spotlight.
That's good stuff. Yeah. Yeah. I think when you really try to make other people important and help them achieve a vision worth achieving, it's exciting. It's not about you, it's more about them, but there's such a satisfaction that comes from that too, when you're not making it about you. There's just something special. I feel like the way that we're designed, that we get great satisfaction when other people succeed, and we can truly enjoy that when we're trying to help them reach their goals and stuff like that. So, man, that's really cool. I haven't heard anybody share that story about Solomon. That's a great one. Usually you hear different stories about Solomon. That's a really good, it's a really good story. So, well, man, there's so much we could talk about with drones, with commercial roofing, with leadership, with sales. I mean, I guess before we end this interview, what's one final parting piece of advice to our listeners based on everything we've discussed today?
Well, no matter what hurdles you do face, because you're going to face them. We're facing hurdles as we speak as a company. You're always going to come across things that are going to try to slow you down. They're going to try to stop you in your tracks. And if you give it everything you have, if you are doing everything you can to be a better leader, to be a better person, and to help other people like we were just talking about, it's going to work out for you. You're going to get over those hurdles. You just have to keep on doing it. I ran hurdles in high school. I was a state track athlete. Went to state in a small 1A school. And so I literally had to overcome hurdles and give it everything I got on a daily basis while I was doing that. And it's just the same way in business. They're in your path. They're coming no matter what, and you're not going to be able to stop them. You have to learn how to get over those hurdles and utilize all the things that we talked about during this whole podcast to do that. And so just keep on going, keep learning, keep growing. It's like Anthony says, if you're not evolving, you're dissolving. And so it's some great wisdom to impart on anyone that's looking to either become a business owner, who is a business owner or just a salesman, you can overcome those things, and you will. So
That's awesome, man. I mean, it
leave
doesn't
it at
really
that.
fall in line with my get rich quick scheme, but
Well, it can happen, and it
it's
will
awesome.
happen to those who just. I mean, hey, we've only been in business 4 years, and we're on the cusp of being there. So it may not be a overnight thing, but it's definitely pretty quick. There's a lot of companies that have been around for a very long time that don't have the opportunities that we've had, and we're thankful for every opportunity that we come across. So essentially, you can get rich quick. You just have to work really hard for
Yeah, right. And of course, we know everybody knows I'm joking about that,
it. Yeah, for sure.
man, that's good stuff, Tyler. I appreciate you being on the show, and it'll be neat to have you back on in the future and just hear how
Absolutely.
drone roofing has evolved and grown, and just the more things that you guys have done as you deploy this technology and offer it to other contractors around the U.S. That'll be
Yep.
really neat to come back and revisit that. So, anyway, Tyler, thanks for being on the show, man.
Thank you. I appreciate it.